All right, guys, what's up? Rob Ferrari here, and you've got my 458 back in my driveway. Obviously, you see all the theatrics that take place in this driveway, which is why that gate is going up. And good news, if I get carjacked today, you get to see it on video. But here we are. I'm taking this out. I've got a house party I'm going to tonight. It's sort of a car guy thing. So I asked my wife, NSX or Ferrari. She picked the Ferrari. And now I got it washed and we're ready to go. So I told you the one thing you have to do when you get a car and you go to purchase it is you have to get a PPI, right? I stand by that. I still stand by that. And this one, obviously, you've seen my PPI didn't go so well. And what do you do when a PPI doesn't go so well? So what I had a problem with is that when I brought this over to Wide World to just check it out after I got the car, and I'm like, you know, it doesn't feel as perfect as they told me it was. And I started to feel a bunch of issues, namely the one where the traction control light would come on, just trying to drive it down the highway at 60 miles an hour. Yep, happy. All right, stay out of 7th. So I brought it to Wide World, and inside an hour, Wide World was able to put it up in the air and find out a litany of things that were wrong with it. This seal is leaking here on the gearbox. There's also a little bit of a leak from the pump. That one is not as bad. I've got a dimple here in the door. This part has a broken weld. Power steering rack is leaking, and the leak obviously drips down here. This dinosaur bite missing out of the under tray, that probably would have been something they should have told me. I mean, I don't even care about the wood screws, right? Or whatever the hell screws these are, the rusted ones. You would think they would say, hey, by the way, your under tray is ripped and this bumper doesn't perfectly line up. Again, it's an aftermarket bumper, it doesn't line up. The point of a PPI is to tell somebody the things that are wrong and then let them make the decisions whether they're okay with it. We reached out to the dealership that did the PPI and we told them, like, look, there's all this stuff wrong with it. And their response was actually surprising to me. It was, that must have happened. It wasn't like that when it was here. It must have happened like between when he got it and when he drove it to you. I'm like, so you're saying oil leaks, tires mismatched, all this stuff, as steering rack leaking, all this stuff happened inside 12 miles? So that was their defense. And then they said, we don't do PPIs. And I'm like, strange, because you do PPIs, because you did a PPI for me and you charged me for it. And not only did you charge me for a PPI, you charged me $1,300 for a PPI. And I looked back. I've worked with this dealership in the past. They did a PPI on my 430 Challenge car when I bought it, and it was $420 for the PPI, and they pulled $102,000 or $103,000 of stuff wrong with the car. Whether it was actually something that was actionable or not, they still came up with $103,000 in stuff on a $120,000 purchase. So for them to come back and say they don't do a PPI when they now charged me 3 times the amount, and they came up with virtually nothing and stuff that I came up with instantly, there's no way, even at the prevailing rate of $300 an hour, which is what Ferrari dealers are charging right now, you're telling me you got 4 hours of time into a car and you couldn't come up with all this basic stuff that was wrong with it. And since then, let me see how many miles are on it now. Let's get in here. Oh yeah. Since then, we're now at 9,734 miles, right? See if I can turn the AC off so you can hear that. Steering rack is officially shot, and that's going to be replaced, or it has to be replaced now. And on top of that, these vents, I'm like, why is it not cooling off in here? All the gizzards in these vents are stripped out. Like, this doesn't do anything on the inside. But same with this one. So now the dash has to come off to get those things out. That sucks. And I didn't pick up on that. But like, if you're doing a 4-hour PPI, you'd think they'd figure out stuff like that. But they missed all this. And that's a problem. And the fact that the dealership is taking the stance of like, oh, you know what? we screwed up, let's make it right. And not even that we screwed up, we're a bad dealership, but like one of our guys must have missed it. It's so easy for a dealership to just throw the guy under the bus and say one of our guys must have missed it. They dropped the ball so hard on this, and I'm not even telling you, and I don't like bashing dealerships because it doesn't get you anywhere, right? Like they've got a lot of reputable transactions, but like I've got to file a lawsuit against them. Now, what do you do when you have a car that you purchased that, in my opinion, and I don't know, this gave me all the indications that this car was potentially a rollback, right? All the stuff that I found wrong with it, like even to do a PPI and not even see there's a big dimple on the door, is saying that you didn't even put it up in the air. And the fact that you didn't notice that the tires were different sizes, so the traction control was cutting in while you're driving down the road at 60 miles an hour, means you didn't test drive it either. Given the wear, right? Like the wear on the seat here, and the couple of leaks underneath, the steering rack, I'm gonna say this car was probably a rollback, and I even voiced my concern to Wide World, but they gauge, they're like, yeah, it's really tough to tell. They gauge off the brake pads, and their look at the brake pads said, like, look, the brake pads look they don't look overly used, right? So they don't look like they've got 30,000 miles on the car, which is what the rest of the wear is consistent with, because my 488 right now has like small oil leak in the same thing, small oil leak in the back, and at about 35,000 miles, the steering rack went. So in my head, this car could be a rollback, and it's showing all the signs of wear of a 30,000 mile car, but on an 8,000 mile car, now a 9,000 mile car. So what I'm doing now, because the dealership, I tried to do the soft thing. Like I had my dealership reach out to them, and they sort of said like, go pound sand, which sucks. It's like not the approach you want to take. Now I'm going to contact my attorney, have my attorney draft a letter, get the estimates to get everything done. And I've already spent money. I've already put new tires on the thing. I just spent $800 or a little over $800 at ETD. They sent out all 4 wheels. They got them refinished and balanced, mounted the tires. So I've already spent money that didn't come up in the PPI, but I obviously had to spend the money to fix it. Now I've got to order a steering rack and put it in, because it sucks to drive like that. Like hearing the noise while you're turning is never fun. I tried putting fluid in it. It wasn't just low. And that's why even when we put it up in the air, day one, when I got the car, they put it up in the air and we noticed that the steering rack was leaking. Surprise, surprise, steering rack has an issue. And we're going to draft up a letter and send a draft complaint. I don't like just filing lawsuits to file lawsuits. Like I don't enjoy suing people, but it's the only way to get results in this world, sadly. And we're going to end up sending a letter to the dealership. Hopefully that will resolve it. And I just want the car to be made right? Like if there's not enough evidence to prove that the car was a rollback, or even that the dealership knew it was a rollback, I can't really go after them for that, right? Like I probably would have paid significantly less for this car, probably $25,000 less, had I been able to identify all these issues or had them fix them. I was okay with the price I paid for the car if they fixed the issues, which are present on the car now. I'm not really tied to this car for life. I love it, but now that I have the 458, it's always going to be worth a little bit less than like a nice clean 458. If there's no evidence of a rollback, I've got no proof to say it's a rollback. Nobody else is going to be able to know whether or not it's a rollback. They'll pull up the same stuff with a PPI that I would, but it's going to be fully serviced and ready to go. So the value is not really affected by the thought that I think that it might be a rollback. But if I want to get out of this and sell it, I'll sell it for whatever. It'll always trail the 458 market. So the 458 market goes down, mine will go down consistently with it. If it goes up, mine will go consistently with it. When I'm ready to get another one, I'll buy another one and sell out of this one. And we'll see how it goes. But I'll keep you in the loop as to what's going on. I'll let you know how the dealer reacts to, oh, look, we got a McLaren. So not only am I not getting carjacked, I got a McLaren showing up to my house. Come on in, you'll fit. If this fits, you'll fit, pal. That's Alan from McLaren, Bergen County. He's come to the house party with me. But anyway, as we let this happen and the gates are not yet up, we're going to figure out what's going on here. I'm going to send the letter. We've already gotten the response from the dealership that, like, tough crap, and that's not going to fly. So next step is to get the lawyer to send the letter out, let them know, send the estimates over, and if they don't respond back with something favorable, we file a lawsuit, and we'll show you how that plays out. Rob Ferrari, thank you for watching. Here's what I found on my 458 that still has to be fixed. That's not really fun. And this is how you handle a bad PPI.